The tuning of the Hardanger fiddle is different than the tuning of a violin. About 80% of the tunes are tuned in upstilt or up tuning. It's the most common type of tuning, and so most fiddles just stay in that tuning. It's a whole step higher than the violin on most of the notes. So instead of an E on the violin, the top string is an F sharp. Instead of an A, the next string is a B. Instead of a D, the next string is an E. And then instead of a fifth lower like the violin, it's actually a fourth lower, and it's another B. So the lowest string and your A string, even though it's a B, are in octaves. This also means that when you play a third finger on the G string, or the lowest string, it's unison with your D string, which is kind of fun. When I'm reading sheet music, which is not traditionally done, but occasionally I do that. When I read the sheet music, if I see an A, I would play my open A, which is actually a B. So if a composer's writing music, if they want it to sound like a B, they would write an open A, because it would come out as a B. This is also called scordatura when I'm playing what I see on the page. If you play the violin, for example, you're playing the same fingers as you would for a violin, but it's all coming out a whole step higher. So you don't have to transpose while you're playing. To tune the bottom strings, the sympathetic strings, I like to remember a little song, da 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 dee da dee da da da, by Edvard Grieg. The understrings match the notes above. So the first one is a B, just like this string. The next one is a G sharp, also the second finger on the D string, which you use a lot. The next string is an F sharp, just like this top F sharp. And the lowest string is an E to match this E, or your open D string. And if you forget, you can sing da 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 da. If they're not perfectly in tune, they won't resonate. So you want to make sure your bottom strings and your top strings are perfectly in tune with each other. I think the easiest way to tune the sympathetic strings is putting the Hardanger fiddle between your legs, so your hand's free, and then you can pluck your top string and then tune. Some people do this, which also works, but I find it a little more awkward going in this way. When you tune the sympathetic strings like this, I always make sure to get my finger really close to the fingerboard, so that I'm not getting all my finger oils where you want to play. If the upper and lower strings are perfectly in tune with each other, then the instrument resonates very well. And if they're not in tune, the instrument can't use those sympathetic strings to help make the instrument resonate.